and this is Magic Monday. So glad to have you guys with us again today on this rainy Magic Monday. Hope that wherever you guys are, you're staying safe. We know that there are some hazard warnings out there, but come on, a little rain, we can dust that off. And if you're working from home, then we're glad to have you with us here on this Magic Monday. I'm your host, Neil D'Souza, and of course, our illustrious co-host, Jason Vaz.
How's it going? How's it going? Guys, make sure your coffee's warm because it's terrible outside. It's the only nice thing.
Yes, there's been some weather warnings out west in Vancouver. They're literally warning off ships and stuff. It's that crazy
Oh,
out
really?
there.
Okay.
But speaking
I
of
hear we're
out
complaining
west,
about gray skies.
well, speaking of out west, we've got our mortgage specialist, Marlon Yeeman, with us.
What's up, boys? Happy Monday.
I think I went for the stereotype, Marlon, but anyways, we'll roll with it. Now, but here we've got an extra special co-host on our show today. Guys, you've seen her before. She was a part of that the showdown, the throwdown, and there was nobody that was going to go down, and she she stepped up to the plate. It's the condo coach, the condo queen, Irene Lee. Thank you so much for joining us today, Irene.
Hey, Neil. Thank you so much for having me. Jason, hi. Hi, Marlon.
Hi, Irene. Nice to see you
Good
again.
to see you guys. Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Yes. Well, you know, we're going to try to keep Irene and Jason separate this time. Hopefully we don't get into another brawl, but you know, we're bringing in Irene today. She's going to be giving us some commentary and sharing with us about the condo market. And we know that Jason has been keeping us up to date on residential real estate, but we're going to bring in the condo queen to talk a little bit about what's been happening in the markets. Now, Marlon, you've been talking a lot recently about inflation, and I'm going to bring that conversation in just a second because there's so much talk about the Bank of Canada. But before we get to any of that, we've got to talk about probably the most important news because this is our world today, and that is that they're lifting COVID restrictions today for capacity limits. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
That's great.
Not our little ones.
To be honest, yeah, go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was expected. I think Ford was very transparent of what he wanted to do from the beginning. Even when he announced the vaccine passports, he said he really didn't want this to be a permanent. It was a very temporary thing. And he stayed true to his promise, you know, like he's saying, okay, you guys, we got a good response on this angle. Now we're going on to kind of lift things. And now I don't know if I'm putting the horse, like the character for the horse here, but from what I understand in January, they're not even going to require vaccines anymore.
So that's a great point, Jason, because they actually stated that they're hoping for all measures, including masks, to be lifted by March of 2022, in which case you got to ask the question, why did we even have a vaccine mandate and QR codes and all of that coming into place right now?
They were transparent about that too. They said because they wanted to tackle the fourth wave, because let's look at it. We had three waves that we got hit by. Each time we said, lock everybody up. All right. We said, let's lock everyone up. That didn't work. All right. It didn't work. It brought numbers down and then it went back up. They said, okay, well, you know, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is a definition of insanity. So they said, okay, instead of us looking like the same politicians, let's try something different. They did. It was effective. And I know, hey, this has nothing to do where people stand on these vaccines, on what side they are. I think it goes out saying that the numbers are down compared to what they were before. We didn't get hit with high numbers. We didn't get hit with high deaths. It's starting to look a little better now. Hey, this could be herd immunity for all you know. I don't think. I think we all have witnessed or have experienced getting COVID. We could be naturally building antibodies ourselves. Who knows? It could have been the natural progression of this. We saw that with SARS, which is very similar to COVID, where it just kind of naturally eradicated itself. We could be doing that. Who knows?
What do you think about lifting the COVID restrictions on limits in businesses, Irene?
I feel like Jason and I are always going to be at it. We're always on the opposite side of
Two sides
things.
of a coin, man.
Listen, I
You're worth
understand what you're
25
saying.
cents.
I get it. You know what? You think Ford was true to his word, but his word was this and that. He was never actually true to one side. Okay. So he's placating one and then the other. So I get that. But why are we spending so much tax money on these passports if they're going to be eradicated by January, March? And you know what? All the taxes are being enforced on real estate right now. Like, we have so much tax to pay. They want to raise those taxes. We got to pay it somehow, right? So, to what end are we going to keep doing this? And he promised the lockdown would be 3 months. Then he extended it and he extended it. So at this point, I don't believe what he's saying. But you know what? We just have to live, and real estate's been great. So
I know, we've been doing pretty well. Like, I mean, unless you're a first time home buyer.
Pardon me?
I said, unless you're a first time home buyer, real estate sucks right now.
Well, even that, there are ways around it pre-construction, Jason.
I agree. You know what, guys? I want to say this out loud.
We're gonna come back
right now because everything else is too expensive. We can't afford anything.
We're gonna come back to that in just a moment, and I want you guys to save that witty banter. Adrian, thank you for speaking. Irene, thank you for speaking the truth. Adrian is giving you some applause. There you go. Adrian's backing up Irene.
Yeah.
Way to go.
What's up, Adrian? What's up?
Love it. Thank you. Well, Marlon, let's come back to this topic of inflation, because this is really been hitting the news. Everyone is talking and saying that the Bank of Canada is going to have to raise interest rates, and the Bank of Canada has continued to say that we're going to hold on. Are they really going to hold on, or are we expecting a interest rate hike? We know that you announced it there last week that some of the lenders are already raising interest rates. What are your thoughts on the Bank of Canada raising interest rates?
Yeah, so just to be clear, the rates that went up last week were fixed rates. That has nothing to do with the Bank of Canada directly. Really, they affect the variable rates. The Bank of Canada has always said, for over the last 9 months, I think, that they are going to raise rates in 2022 around the midway part. The reason why people are talking about them having to raise it earlier is because the Federal Reserve in the US, which is the equivalent of the Bank of Canada, has gotten a much more aggressive stance since their last meeting. They were probably saying the same thing, that they were going to raise in mid-2022, but now they've decided to cut back their bond purchases. They're saying that they're going to raise it probably the first quarter of 2022. So once the US starts to move, most likely the Bank of Canada will need to move. But again, nothing's set in stone by the Federal Reserve. That's just a kind of vote they take of all the board members and how they feel. So the Bank of Canada is adamant that a lot of the inflation that we see now is transitory. It's a built-up of bottlenecks in transportation and supply and all that stuff. But they also said, some of the economists from TD also said, but we don't know how long this is going to last, because it was only supposed to last 6 to 9 months. It's been lasting quite longer than that, and it could have a much lasting longer effect. And if it does have a lasting longer effect, I think the Bank of Canada will have to eat their words and will probably have to raise the prime rate earlier than expected. So as a firm here at Pineapple, we've been promoting. We know variable mortgages are good rates. They're low, but we've been trying to deter clients from going into them unless it absolutely makes sense for them. Because the problem is, if too many people go into variable rates, and if it does shoot up quite quickly, which it could by 0.5 at a time, those clients are in for a big surprise if they're not ready to lock in. So really, you should be only considering a variable rate if you're looking for the flexibility of being able to break the mortgage or to refinance. Not because it's the rock bottom low rates, because it's quite clear that those rates are going to rise, and they're going to rise quickly, maybe next year. Yeah.
Would you advise that we lock into the fixed rates now, then, everybody who's on variable?
That's a good question. That's a conversation that we've started to have with our variable clients, especially the ones with very big, deep discounts. I mean, just to have that conversation, get it started, we come back and circle back and say, well, let's look at this. Why are you still in this variable rate? If while you're in there is still you want that flexibility, then stay. But if you're just like, oh, well, I loved it because it was a low rate, I was trying to pay down my mortgage faster, well, now it's time to maybe lock in the fixed rates, because the fixed rates are on the rise and they will only be higher next year. But it is going to be quite a bit. The variable rate has to go up by at least 1% before we're even aware fixed rates are at right now, right?
Right.
But it's
Right.
it's good to have that conversation starting now.
Neil, can I ask
actually, I
Marlon a
agree.
question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not in the mortgage side of things, so my question is kind of plebeian, like just like the person that doesn't understand what's happening. So my thinking would be that the government would understand that most of our economy is driven by real estate at this point, or a lot of it is, and to raise interest rates quickly, like how fast and how, like what is the increment would you say? Because I have learned from you that it is not the interest rate, but it's the amortization that counts, and the affordability that we can buy these places. So even if the mortgage rates go up, is it really going to be that crazy? Because if it doesn't, everybody's in trouble, not just one or two people.
Yeah, I mean, it won't be crazy in the sense that people won't be able to qualify because we're still going to qualify people at the stress test of 5.25. So that will always be the baseline. It will be more for people who just aren't ready for that kind of shock in their payment. There are two types of variable mortgages. Most of them will adjust the payment based on the rate going up. There are some variable mortgages where the lender will not adjust the payment. You'll get to keep your same payment, but all that means is that it's going to take you a lot longer to pay off your mortgage. So you got to be careful which type of variable mortgage you're in, because if your whole idea of going in there in the first place was to pay it off quickly, and you're in one of those types where the payment doesn't adjust upwards, you're kind of doing the backwards thing. You probably should lock into a fixed. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be it's going to have a big, effect on everybody. But from a client servicing perspective, it's not a good experience for a client to be, shocked one day and say, hey, oh my God, it went up 0.5%, and then I tell them, oh, it's 3.6% to lock in now, right? When it's 2.3 now, right? You rather have that conversation now, so you can always say, well, I kind of gave you the forewarning. We don't know exactly how fast it's going to rise, but if you want to kind of absorb or decrease some of that shock that's coming, now may be a good time to lock it in.
Okay.
Yeah. In truth, I think we see very little.
Yes.
Yes. Crypto Chicago, big shout out.
I agree with you. I agree. Bitcoin is actually going to be a huge thing in real estate soon too. I agree. It's something that we should look into. Yeah.
Well, they've now approved it in El Salvador. You can actually transact with
institution.
That's right.
But it's coming here too to North America. It is
I
coming.
agree that crypto of some nature will come. I just don't think it'll be Bitcoin. The lag time for a transaction to go through is too long. I think we talked about this briefly when we did a crypto segment. When Elon Musk had Tesla accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment, and the biggest issue that they had was the first transaction timed out because it took too long. They never actually did one transaction. Now Tesla at the time was very bullish, very optimistic on Bitcoin, and it just seemed a little odd that when a company which is owned by the richest man in the world at the time couldn't get transactions to go through. I find in real estate will have difficulty. At least in Ontario, we seem to not be ahead of the curve on a lot of things.
But I think that's why we need it. I think that's why we need it to be tested in smaller places like this, where they're going to be able to go through. They're going to be able to iterate the technology and work on those processes and work through all of those mistakes, and then start bringing it to the larger markets. And so that we have that. There's already companies that are out there that are working on not just on the speed, but they're also working on the transaction costs, because we know that the transaction costs right now are a little heavy for that. So I think they've got to continue working on that technology, but it definitely seems that whether it's Bitcoin or something else, I mean, we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
We know that the governments don't really like the idea of accepting these guys as
currency.
The governments can do what they want, but
actually, though, in the pre-construction world,
sorry,
in the pre-construction world, it's a conversation we're having daily at this point, because we realize it's a 5-year play, right? So we want to get ahead of the game, and it's a deposit structure where you're just putting in this kind of money. So it's actually, I feel it's coming very soon in the pre-construction world, for sure.
Irene, that's very interesting, because one of the biggest concerns I've had with my clients when we have a discussion about should we buy resale, should we buy pre-construction, is the odd deal that where the builder doesn't go through. And I know it doesn't happen that often, but obviously if you put like a small fortune as a deposit and you get it returned, you lose money, even though you like on paper you haven't lost. You put 100 grand in, you get it back in 5 years. But had you invested that, it would have been better. So if they could say, hey, instead I'll put $100,000 worth of Bitcoin as my deposit, and if you don't complete your deal, you just return it right back, because and that's assuming the trend is still going up. Now, if Bitcoin tanks, that person's gonna be pretty pissed off. If you put $100,000 into something and get $10,000.
Yeah, but Jason, this goes to you and me again, okay? How many projects in the city are you going to tell me has failed? Like
No,
ratio
and as I
wise,
said, it's a rare
saying
thing. It's a rare
99%
thing.
goes through, right? So
No.
this
And as
fear
I said, it's
mongering.
more from the investor
What?
mindset. When we're talking to somebody who's looking to park money or move money, it's from the idea that, hey, yeah, I'm taking your $100,000 now, and if they come back to you and say, well, why don't I just come at 5 years and buy resale instead? Because I
Jason,
can
let me ask you this one, Jason. Jason, let me ask you this. Let me switch it around. Instead of the concern of losing that and then okay, the money's invested. How about the flip side?
Yeah.
What about if you're using, say, some type of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and it goes up in value? Do you think that the builders could now say, okay, we'll honor it at this value now?
I don't think they would. It wouldn't be in their best interest to honor it
That's
at
a
the
good point.
value. I think it would be, hey, if it's 2 coins to buy this plate to deposit, it's a 2 coin deposit. Whether that 2 coins is worth 50,000 or 100,000 today and 2 million tomorrow, I think the builder's going to always win in that deal.
Yeah, but Neil, it's the same thing. You know what? We're buying, if you buy cash today and the prices go up in 5 years, the bill can't come back to you and say, yo, the price has gone up now, pay more, right? So it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, but can the builders because you gave Bitcoin instead of cash, and now let's say that Bitcoin is worth more, can they say, oh, okay, we're about to close now, but hey, this Bitcoin is actually worth
you're
$50,000
not really using
more
Bitcoin as a transaction. You're really hedging the Bitcoin and using it as an asset, and then it's not a currency anymore. So if we got, and that's what people have a hard time understanding, is that, is it an asset or is it a currency? Currency by nature is supposed to inflate. So if it's appreciating, it's an asset. But if we're using like there's a reason why you can't use gold as a deposit. No one in the right mind. If I told you right now, hey, I'll sell you my house, but you got to put a deposit of $100,000 worth of gold, which say it's like 100 pounds or whatever you want to call it, 10 pounds.
Actually, technically, you can buy in gold, but and silver.
Not really. Like
and gold, silver, and I believe platinum. You can actually technically buy with either, because all three of them are considered money. Currency. But good luck if you. No, they're actually considered money, not currency. So,
really?
But the question is, will someone even know what to do in that transaction? Because the difficulty in it is that because it's money and not currency, you can't actually tax it. So there's a whole nother world there, which is why nobody deals with that. But we won't get into the precious metals conversation at the moment. But okay, let's just switch gears here for a second. That's really interesting. Just an interesting concept to think of. Where could we go with Bitcoin, or where could we go with crypto? And because we know that there's this continual push to go down that road, some way, some shape, some form. But let me ask you this question, Irene. I'm going to give it to you right now. We got to talk about condos. What in the world is going on with condos in this market?
Yeah, actually, good question. So we all know, Jason, you can probably back this, that the freehold market resale has done.
Please don't bring Jason into it. We're just going to start the fight all over again. He'll jump in anyways. All right, go ahead.
So you know what, the freehold housing market did very, very well this year, and the gap between the prices of houses and condos is the largest we've seen ever in history. So what's going to happen now is we've got to bridge that gap somehow. People are not able to afford houses anymore. So more people are going into condominiums until we start to bridge that gap a little bit or close it, right? So the resale market for condos is on fire. Number two, pre-construction, where I specialize, we've hit $2,100 per square foot in Toronto this year. It's the new project that we're working on right now. And it sounds crazy, Jason. I can see your face right now, but the closing is 6 years out. And I guarantee you, if we're still sitting here 6 years from now, we'll be saying, oh my God, I should have bought 5 back then. You know, it's not to line the pockets of builders, really. It's because the acquisition costs, the zone costs, the material costs, the labor costs, et cetera, et cetera. And the government has now put a new bylaw in for next year. Any condominium looking for zoning within, I believe, like a 500-meter radius from any transit line has to have inclusionary zoning. And inclusionary zoning means part of that pre-construction building must be allocated to low-income and mid-income families, which means that the builder and the investors of the other units will have to pay more money, right? And the inventory is going to shrink. It's not like the government is allowing for these permits to go faster. So now we have 20 applications approved as opposed to 15. We're still going at the same pace, but now our quantity of units that are going to be built for investors is going to come down considerably because the government is now mandating that part of those buildings must be allocated to low income and mid-income families. So I guarantee you in the next couple of years, Jason, you'll be like, I should have bought one. Irene, you're right.
Irene, what about you to tell you I'm in the market for a condo right now?
Well, it's a great.
Tough. You can't buy freehold anymore.
Yeah.
You're talking to somebody who's buying freehold, they're looking at like a $1.1 million purchase. Now it makes sense.
But wait,
I
I'll give you a solution. I'll
What?
give you a solution. Everybody keeps asking me, who is buying right now? And the answer is simple. It's everybody who has bought previously, allowed their assets to appreciate, refinanced, right, Marlon? Refinanced, and
Yep.
then are leveling up, right? You can either sell it or refinance, but you are actually making a lot of money on those real estate investments that you've had. And those are the clients that keep coming back. It's not overseas money as everybody keeps trying to push.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should also point out here that being in Kingston, Ontario, that there is a lot of buying still going on in the rest of the province, the rest of the country. Now, there are some slowdowns in certain places. We've seen in Windsor it slow down a little bit. In some other towns and cities, it slowed down a little bit. Of course, it's just that time of year. But with the price of housing, detached houses in a lot of other towns and cities, you're still seeing a steady flow of buyers right now. And to be honest with you, that's across the country. We're still seeing that, even though it might have slowed down in some of the major urban centers because of the price points.
Yeah. And I think it's lack of inventory at this point as well, because I think that if I'm correct, there was 18% appreciation in the freehold resale market last year. And because it's becoming more and more expensive, I feel like people are settling down and sitting in their spaces for now, refinancing and just buying into the pre-construction world.
Yeah, there's also some data just came out about the tourism that's happened this year and the expectations for travel and tourism within the country next year. They had almost a 50% growth in 2021 from 2020, of course, the COVID. So it wasn't hard for it to do 50%. But now for next year, they're expecting in Ontario alone another 40% growth in travel and tourism within the province. So there's definitely a market there for people that are looking in the Airbnb, short-term rentals, hotels, any of this kind of space. It's definitely an active market. I can tell you that right now. Now I've got to ask here, because we got you on the show, Irene, and what I really want to ask you here is, a little birdie told me that you are launching a new show today. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So Neil, thank you for introducing me to this space of podcasts and YouTube channels, because you're the one who actually brought me on first to have this interview. And it's difficult. I got to tell you, everybody, this is very difficult. It's not an easy thing to do, be in front of everybody and speak to your expertise, but you've done it so well. So I decided to try and do my own show. And you're right. Thank you so much for plugging me today. We are launching the Condo Coach podcast today.
Woo!
It's not great yet, but I am starting to get my footing. So maybe give it a couple of weeks and you'll be able to see, more who I naturally am. But up until now, oh my goodness, it's been very challenging. But yes, thank you for sharing.
So it's called the Condo Coach is the name of the show?
Yes, Condo Coach Podcast. Yes.
Okay, the Condo Coach Podcast. And where are we going to be able to find it, first of all?
I think if you search, to be honest, we're launching today, so I'm not really too sure. But if you search Condo Coach Podcast on YouTube, I'm actually just interviewing. Actually, Marlon was one of the first guests on my show. And so I'm sharing information that I gather from industry professionals. I would love to have a chat with you, although I feel like you're better at hosting this than me. So give me a few more episodes before I can be a host to your show. But if you look at Condo Coach Podcast, I've done a few interviews with industry professionals, people who can share their expertise and just shed light on certain things in real estate, because I feel that the problem these days is everything is too fast. We're chasing fear of missing out rather than educating ourselves. So this is a great opportunity for people to get educated as well as myself. I'm speaking to these individuals and learning a lot as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that is essential in our market, and part of the reason that we are also doing the same, right? Being able to share details on the street level, things that people are concerned about. Even this conversation about crypto, what does it really have to do with anything? Well, that's what people want to know. Hey, are we going to see it in this space? And what is a mortgage got to do, or the raises in interest rates, all that kind of stuff. So I love what you're talking about, what you're creating in terms of just helping people in that condo market, because there's so much conversation around that. Do I buy condo? Do I buy pre-con? Do I buy detached? And where should I be buying? And why? What are all the things to think about? So that's really helpful to bring that to the market.
Thank you.
It's great. Well, we love you on the show. We know that you're not gonna pull punches. I mean, we need someone to give Jason a shot in the gut every now and then, and we're glad that you're willing to do it. So we're looking forward to having you on again. Now that you've got your own show, people can go check out the Condo Coach, but we'll also be able to have you on again and maybe share a little bit about what that journey has been like. Because that's a whole world that I know that there are a lot of people that have expertise that are going to be able to share that with the world in the podcast form as well. So maybe you'll be able to come on and share what that journey's been like for you at a later date.
Great. Yeah, 100%. Anytime.
Love it. Faisal, good to see you, my man. Great conversations. I have to connect on my next meeting. Yeah, keep up the great work. All right. Thank you, Faisal. Yes, Faisal, good man, insurance. We'll have to talk to him in the future. But guys, 1 minute left. Final thoughts on real estate and the market today. Jason.
It's nuts. Can't buy anything. You can't buy anything.
Nah. You know what? Join me. I'll teach you how to buy something.
Marlon, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, Irene talked about the disparity between detached and condos. I've been doing this for over 10 years now. Every time I see that disparity, the condo market's about to do a leg up again.
Yeah.
So if you're shopping for a condo now and you think it's expensive now, you're in for a surprise. It's probably going to start going back up, and the market kind of has to balance itself back out, right? Some people can't afford the detached, so they'll move into a condo for a couple of years, save up and rebuild that equity again, like Irene said, and sell and then maybe go for another shot at a detached, right? And that's just the cycle of the real estate market here in Toronto. So, yeah.
Yeah, love it. And from the investor perspective, I'll tell you guys that times have never been better to be buying in investment real estate wherever you can. If the market's right for what you're doing, and obviously there's different types of investments in any market, make sure you get some good advice and have a good team around you. But on behalf of myself, Neil D'Souza, the illustrious Jason Vaz, Marlon Yeeman, and our special co-host today, Irene Lee, the Condo Coach. Thank you guys so much. This is Magic Monday. We'll see you guys again next
See you
week.
guys.